There were two huge debuts on NXT this week. Hello, you're watching the WrestleTalk podcast. I'm El Fakador Laurie Blake, and I'm joined by Chopper Pete Quinnell. And as I just said, two really big names made their NXT debut on last night's episode. We had Timothy Thatcher in the main event match, being Matt Riddle's partner, and we had Killer Cross, now named Karrion Cross.
Karrion Cross,
who appeared to close out the show attacking Tommaso Ciampa. So we'll be going through those bits in a second, but we're also going to be talking a little bit about the NXT releases that came out last night in that sort of tragic wave of news coming out of WWE. And we'll also be talking about the rest of the show a little bit too. So let's hop into the debuts that happened. Timothy Thatcher's was probably more of a surprise than Killer Cross, who's had plenty of teasing, plenty of vignettes, showed up at the back of the shot on the Johnny Gargano Ciampa match, one final beat last week.
Which, by the way, Blumpy and I last week completely missed. Completely missed that shot entirely. But, that's fine. Lots of people spotted it and told us we were stupid, which we were. That's what
YouTube comments are there for, Pete, to remind you that in all your hard work and everything you've done, you've still failed. That's what YouTube comments are all about. So they've had all this teasing, and then this week, Thatcher, on the other hand, is literally they've said that he signed a deal, and that was a few months ago now, I think. And this is after years and years and years of WWE trying to get him, and him being like, I don't want to do it, I'm not that interested. And then now, obviously, the time has come around where he's decided to. Maybe now's not the best time to, who knows? But it's kind of fortuitously, or seemingly, actually bumped up his debut from whatever they might have been planning to they have just decided to go with it now and do it. So the Undisputed Era are vying for the tag titles. It's Bobby Fish and Roderick Strong, because Kyle O'Reilly is not medically cleared, they said. Adam Cole is on vacation in his garden, as he has been for weeks now. Riddle comes out and a promo package from Pete Dunne plays where he's wearing a WWE 2K19 t-shirt.
Yes, because
man has taste.
2K20 is terrible.
So he says, I've got someone who I think will be a good fit for you, Matt Riddle, who's gonna work with you in this match, and it's Timothy Thatcher. What did you make of this debut, Pete?
I really like Timothy Thatcher, so I was super excited to see him. And when he first came out, he just kind of stood on the ramp with Riddle and then just barreled straight down to the ring, no smile on his face, no nothing. And I was like, this is cool. I can get on board with this. He was really good in the match as well, I thought, getting over his offense. He didn't he didn't squash anyone. He made everyone look really good. He looked really good coming out of it. He was the one who actually ended up getting the victory, using a Fujiwara armbar, which was pretty cool. They were teasing it throughout the match that he was going to lock it in, and when he finally did, Strong immediately tapped after he put it in, which I thought was cool. I don't know if I'm a huge fan of him being just like Pete Dunne 2.0, of him just being like, I'm this big bruiser, don't mess with me type, but also I'm going to throw Matt Riddle to do some kind of move, and then I'll laugh about it afterwards. I would have preferred him to just be the hard ass for now, and eventually they can build to him having kind of a softer side. But yeah, I don't know. It was still cool. I'm really excited that Timothy Thatcher's there, and I thought it was a really effective debut for him as a character to be like, here's who he is. He's really hard hitting. He's cool. Watch him. I thought that bit was effective. I don't know how on board I am with him. Yeah, basically just being Pete Dunne again.
Well, because I think that's what's sort of, he's obviously now there are boots to fill, and he's having to fill the boots that Pete Dunne was already doing. And they decided here to do the same thing with him, which is he is the foil to Matt Riddle's comedy ? To Matt Riddle's character, basically. It's an odd couple pairing, isn't it? And what I don't buy about it though is what I quite like about Riddle and Dunne is that I think Dunne's shrugging, I don't care gimmick, it has this surly teenager quality to it. Like he's putting it on. Like I do. It's that sort of thing where it's it's a pretense for the point of being quite funny. Whereas I don't really buy that Timothy Thatcher is pretending he doesn't like things. He just doesn't like things.
Exactly.
He finds no joy. So you kind of get left with this feeling that, like, I don't think it's going to come across quite as well, because there's never that little glimmer that Pete Dunne's at. You're probably not going to get that glimmer that, Pete Dunne's actually enjoying working with Matt Riddle. Clearly. His face might not say so, but I think you can see the twinkle in his eyes. Whereas I think with Thatcher, we're not going to quite get there. I think it's going to be quite awkward. And I think also some parts of this match made it seem a little bit awkward as well, because I don't think everything in the ring gelled quite as well as it could have done. Like there was a little bit of, a few little sloppy moments between Thatcher and the Undisputed Era. The bit where he gets him to flip him, I thought that wasn't like smooth enough. And I get that they were going for that sort of like, no, you've got to do this thing because Pete does that. It just all sort of clunked in places. So I wonder if they're going to build that into the storyline, though, because this is kind of the feeling I got coming out of this. And we were saying this about maybe in the interim Cruiserweight Championship tournament, they might do because they're saying it's interim champion. They might do a champion versus champion match at the end to decide who actually is the champion when Devlin is allowed to come back to America and compete. But here, this storyline feels more like they're going to have some kind of controversy, because they're making a big play out of the fact that Thatcher's just like, he's just a stand-in. He's even said he's just going to help you defend the titles, Matt Riddle, blah, blah, blah. Like you said there was a WWE.com exclusive. What happened in that?
So it was a backstage interview where Riddle was asked, what did you think about Timothy Thatcher? And he was like, oh, he's super cool. He's rad. He's great, kind of putting over Thatcher in the classical way. And then he said, I think Stallion Pete would agree. Why don't you hold this title for now? And Thatcher was like, hey, man, I respect you. We fought. We're really cool together. But I'm not going to hold that title. You hold it for now, because it's your titles. You won them, so I'll help you defend them, but you keep the titles. Which was weird, because he already held one of the titles on the episode, but sure. So yeah, maybe that is building to some sort of tension. Maybe at some point Thatcher's just like, no, I've defended these titles loads. Maybe I am a tag champion after all. And he'll decide to take one of the titles, and maybe when Dunn comes back, there's some sort of tension between them to be like, you haven't even been here. You don't even go here. And he's got one of the titles, been like, I've defended this more than you have. This is mine, really. And then they have like a Dunn Thatcher thing. I'd be into it.
Yeah, that seems like a really good option to cement Thatcher as a main event player in the NXT landscape, is to put him against someone like Dunn or Riddle, because he could, this could be the whole like, I keep saving your ass, Riddle. Like, I just Fujiwara armbarred Roderick Strong and got him out of the match. Like, I'm the one defending this belt. You're letting me down. So Dunn comes back and goes, well, I never lost this belt, so I get one belt. And maybe Thatcher sides with Dunn. Maybe Thatcher sides with Riddle. Maybe Dunn and Riddle side against Thatcher. Like, there's a lot of options to play with here. And I think it's despite it being a full circumstance to have to fill in with Riddle and Dunn, this could actually produce quite an interesting storyline and a good way for them to lose the belts to somebody else without necessarily having to have them beaten. Because, I feel like Induced Share is on the rise in some degree within the tag division, and this is a good way for Riddle and Dunn to just lose to some bigger guys without really losing face.
Yeah, I like that. And it could also be possible where Timothy Thatcher just teams with Dexter Lumis, because he was watching this tag match for some reason. That was a bit of a weird one, because they seem to be making a bigger play with Dexter Lumis now, who beat up Tahuti Miles, the most recent the most recent Miles character in NXT now. I think Dexter Lumis is great. I don't know what they're doing with him, and I think it was a bit weird to do two sociopaths in quick succession on an episode, because they did Dexter Lumis in this match, and there's a point where they chuck Thatcher outside and they start beating on him on the outside, and then Roddy and Bobby notice that Lumis is just looming in the background, and they're like, whoa, what's going on there? And then it was weird. And they don't mention it again. They just leave it. Light of just lighting him from below, and he's just there, just glaring at them. It's like, what what? Why are you here? Stop it. Creepy. I get the whole creepy vibe they're going for, totally. Don't know how he plays into the storyline whatsoever. Or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he's just creepy. Maybe he's just going to show up in random matches to put over his character more of him being looming and stalking and all that stuff. I don't know.
I think maybe he's going to go after Thatcher or something. Like maybe that would be a good a good way for them to sort of build themselves up here. But I just thought it was a bit weird to do that, and then literally a minute after the match, we get Killer Cross making his debut, who is also a stalker killer style character, a bit more on the out and out psychopath end of the spectrum rather than the I'm just going to stand in the backdrop and stare at you. Totally. But I really liked this. I thought this debut was better than Thatcher's, because I think Thatcher didn't quite gel in that match in the way I was hoping he would, because he sort of had to fit into everyone else's style. Whereas this was exactly what Killer Cross, I think, has always wanted to be. Yeah. And this is what he was doing in Impact anyway. And I thought it was really great. You know, Ciampa's sitting there and he says, I'm done with this. I'm done with you, Johnny. I'm done with Candice. I'm just going to say it. You're the bigger man. And then somebody looms out of the backdrop, drags Ciampa down. You hear this
great shot.
It was a great shot, and the camera falls, and then you hear this crazy, like, brawl happening off screen. And the sound design on this bit I thought was really good. They were clearly slamming him into something, like, just made this god awful reverberation. And Ciampa drops to the floor. Scarlett Bordeaux's dominatrix shoe steps into shot, and then Cross crawls in and just goes tick-tock, and that ends the I love it. I thought it was so fun. Right?
Yeah, so good. That shot, because Ciampa's sitting on like a crate or something, just straight at the camera, and you just see from behind him, it's like something from like a horror movie or something where you can't see behind him and you just see something come out of the shadows and grab the person suddenly. It is literally like arms came out and went round his stomach and just pulled him into the darkness. It was such a good shot. And yeah, I really thought this was an effective debut. Stuff they've been teasing that they paid off effectively. I'm really excited to see what he can do. And NXT, I think the whole gimmick is really, really cool. So
and it's a great gimmick for a time like this as well. Like, I think this is one of those, you know, we were saying everyone I think has been talking about the unprecedented circumstances that COVID-19 has forced everyone into. Like, here we are with another character coming up in WWE who opens up the door for different style production. Like having a character who stalks and attacks and chases people opens up the door for like mystery style segments, and you know, things like the Boneyard match or the Funhouse match, those kinds of things, or just Bray doing Firefly Funhouse. Like, WWE's normal way of doing segments is to do matches and promos in the ring, and then sometimes one person will get their own TV show. Like Miz TV, where I get a talk show, and that's pretty much that's really the only currency they deal with normally. And now they've got these characters coming up where you can go like, well, we could actually do a series of what if we did the Fashion Files, but seriously, where these people are trying to track down where Killer Cross is coming from or who he's after, or he can cut these creepy promos, he can make all these attacks, and we can have all of these more cinematic scenes that don't require people to wrestle necessarily.
Yeah, I think that would be really
decision.
I think that would be really effective in trying to get over characters more, because I think for a long time NXT's really just been about who's the best in-ring wrestler and not necessarily about the characters per se. But I think having this kind of more cinematic style like you're talking about is really good for getting that connection with the fans and getting over a character, so that the matches in the ring don't have to be 5-star classics every single time, because you're emotionally invested in the characters. They don't have to be these big, you know, 17 finisher near falls amazing sequences. They can just be regular matches that will be elevated to a next level because of the characters that you're invested in. So yeah, I think this is a weird time, but a good time for Karrion Cross to debut in NXT. Briefly, let's talk about the name Karrion Cross.
With a K?
With a K.
Mortal Kombat!
We spoke about it just before we started recording here, but Karrion is the rotting meat of a corpse.
Of a dead animal, yeah.
So he's gone from a killer to the thing that's dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
Should have just let him keep the name. It was.
Yeah.
It was.
I don't know
fine.
if they like killer as a word. I mean, I guess
True.
they had magic killer as a thing, but I
Crusher
guess Crusher Cross. That's not quite as good.
I know, but it's just because you can.
Sounds like a cereal.
But it's because they made AJ Styles change the calf killer to calf crusher, didn't they?
Yeah.
But it's weird they didn't have the magic crusher then, isn't it?
Yeah,
in the same faction. Yeah. I guess that's probably they don't want a character called killer. But then I actually think carrion is a worse word. Like, if you Google what, I know kids won't know what that means, but if you Google what it means, it's far more evocative than killer to me. I don't know. I think it conjures a more grisly image than just the word killer. Like,
yeah, I guess so. Kangaroo Cross. Yep.
Yeah.
Got it sorted.
Hatton Cross.
Yeah.
Barter Cross. There's. I think, it's another one of those. They might as well just have revamped the whole name and not stuck with anything similar. Like I think that's kind of. I think sometimes when they do these like subtle tweaks, they always come out worse. Whereas you could just do a full name change, and people will just eventually get used to it. Like, obviously, I'm still not used to the Viking Raiders and their new names. I refuse to believe that they're Eric and Ivar, because Hansel and Rowe were fine names. But sure, whatever. I think so. It'd be fine. Karrion Cross. I think Karrion Cross will get over because I think it's a cool gimmick. I think it's interesting to actually have him paired up with Scarlett Bordeaux, which I don't think is something we've seen a hell of a lot of. It wasn't really done too much in Impact, so I think this will add something to this. And I think it'd be. I think what I'm also quite keen on is the idea of seeing how she has adapted her gimmick to fit in with his, and whether she has at all. Because I think the smoke show gimmick here might not necessarily work with I'm a crazy killer, and it's like I'm a crazy killer, man. I'm hot.
I'm a crazy killer, man. I'm also there.
I am here.
Gimmick.
So I don't know. It'll be. I think it's quite an exciting time. It technically was a third, which we didn't mention in the title of this video, but there technically was a bit of a third debut here as well. It's the first time we've seen him in NXT in any way, shape, or form. Was El Hijo del Fantasma, which is King Cuerno, the luchador that we all suspect has been nicking the other luchadors and turning them into lucha slaves, stealing my gimmick. Is going to be part of the interim Cruiserweight Championship tournament. Got a really cool promo package here, I thought, where he looked boss. Yes. I really liked this promo package. I think it made him look like a star. I feel like there are going to be shenanigans and he is going to be the interim Cruiserweight champion in my head. But Kushida's also in the tournament, so it might be Kushida. You never know. Yeah.
I mean, if they are going to lead to a champion versus champion thing, I don't know if we're going to see Phantasma versus Devlin. That might be a bit of a weird matchup. But yeah, I thought, this promo package was awesome. It just showed him in a suit and a mask, kind of really playing into, the people that have been doing the kidnappings on Joaquin Wilde and Raul Mendoza. Really getting over that imagery of him being this kind of like mob boss type character, him just being like, I've wrestled all over the world, I'm amazing, watch me next week because I'm really cool. And that was pretty much the video package, and it was perfect. He's going to be facing Jake Atlas, I think it is, next week in his first Cruiserweight tournament match, which I'm hoping is very quick. I'm hoping he just kind of comes out and kills him a little bit.
And then I think introduce the goons down the line. I think you could do a sort of slow, a subtle heel turn here with him, or if he's being positioned as a heel, that I think you could do something where it's like it's only slowly revealed over the course of this tournament his actual alignment, because I think he's probably got they've built him as like this amazing second generation star who really could just leverage his in-ring skill here and his legacy. But then I think when times are tough, you could play that card of being like, well, I just deserve this because of who I am and my lineage. So I am going to cheat now. Yeah, totally fair. But elsewhere on the show as well,
Well, I guess first, actually, we should probably talk about some of the releases that happened yesterday. Obviously, there were tons of them over on the main roster. There were 5 names from NXT as well. So there was Alexander Jaksic, who I don't think we've seen on NXT. There was MJ Jenkins, who I also don't think we've seen. Dorian Mack, or real name Dan Mather. We've seen Dan Mather, I think, a couple of times. He got destroyed by Samoa Joe quite a few years ago when Dan Mather, I think, had some video packages hyping up his debut, and he came up for his debut, and then Joe came out and just murdered him and just wanted Shinsuke Nakamura, and it was a really cool segment. Who else did we have? We had Josiah Williams, who people might know from Adam Cole's TakeOver entrance, where Josiah Williams was rapping alongside Adam Cole towards the ring, and Deonna Purrazzo as well, who'd been featured on Raw and stuff like that as well. So all those guys released from NXT yesterday as well. It's a really unfortunate circumstance, and I don't know whether that's the full list of NXT talent. I think there might be more. I don't know whether they're waiting for after this episode of NXT, so we might see more tonight, or we might see more after SmackDown, or whenever. But I don't think they're done, unfortunately.
No. I think they're kind of like, I mean, there's been talk of there being a second wave, right? And I think they're probably waiting until some of the show, they've decided who's available to do certain shows, who they need, what talent they need to do the storylines. They're trying to get ahead on sort of the writing, I imagine. And then I guess they're going to cull some more names. And I think it's been said by plenty of people, there's the argument that it's a business decision. It's a bad business decision because it's a very money-minded, fiscally driven business decision that is only about saving a profit margin and not saving the company from a loss, just saving the company from making slightly less profit than they had promised their shareholders, which, in a time of financial upheaval for the entire world, probably doesn't matter. In quite the same way that, it is a financial crisis, I think, for everyone. And I think, you're not earning yourself any brownie points by leaving people that you have just literally this week bribed Florida to say are key workers, leaving them out leaving them completely in the lurch, unable to ply their craft anywhere because everyone else is being far more sensible about the way in which they're doing business at this exact moment in time.
Yeah, I mean, they're completely essential workers apart from when they're not essential at all.
Yeah.
And then we can just get rid of them. Yeah.
And it's a shame, isn't it? Because like you have to think people like I feel like Deonna Purrazzo had so much to give in NXT. Like, she was featured in the Mae Young Classic. She had a spot on NXT before she went away for a bit. She came back. She made they made big deal about her and Chelsea Green joining. Chelsea Green then got injured. I think she broke her wrist. And seemingly that also just put the kibosh on Purrazzo appearing at all. And then Green gets to make her debut as part of the Robert Stone brand. It kind of was floating in the air. Felt like that maybe they were going to add Purrazzo to the Robert Stone brand because Green and Purrazzo had been teaming on NXT live shows, and then nothing. And then like before Purrazzo even really makes her proper NXT debut, she's on that episode of Raw filling in, and then she's in the Battle Royal. With very little ceremony, and then is dumped out. She attacks Shotzi Blackheart. There's that match that happened as well, and that is pretty much the story of her NXT career. I feel like she didn't get a fair shake there at all.
No, and a lot of these guys probably didn't either. I don't know we've seen many of them on NXT TV at all to even form an opinion about them. Yeah, it's such a shame.
And I think it's worth noting that some of these releases would have been mutual between the company and the performers, because clearly, like, some people know they're not getting, like, people like Rusev probably are like, well, I wasn't ever getting used right anyway. I've been stalling making a deal, so that maybe that's a mutual decision. But like for the people in NXT, I feel like they're literally, that's putting your foot on the bottom of the ladder and being like, I'm ready. And then to step backwards feels like it's probably not going to happen. And it's just weird, isn't it, to sign so many people all the time as WWE, have no plans for them, and then wait until a huge crisis and be like, okay, well, on your bike.
Yeah, it's really backwards, but yeah, it's a bad situation for everyone involved, really. But yeah, I guess we should talk about the rest of the show. Yeah. One name we didn't actually mention briefly is also Drake Maverick, who's part of the interim Cruiserweight tournament. He's still allowed. He has been released, but he's still allowed to compete as part of this tournament. And then after that, he's gone. So his Twitter video was heartbreaking. His Twitter video was horrible to watch. But they've turned him into the biggest babyface in the company during these matches. Like, I'm going to be watching these matches so much more invested than I was before, and I just want to see Maverick do amazing. And I really hope he does in all those matches. I really hope he's given, respect. He's not just gone out there being like, well, you've already gone from the company, you can lose in 2 minutes. I really hope he's given a bit of respect, and he's, going to put in some good showings in his matches.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, is like, I think what Drake Maverick has proven throughout the whole time that he's been at WWE is that he will take whatever they're going to give him and he will run with it. And whether that's being the GM on 205 Live, whether that is being wetting himself, whether that is the going, like, literally grabbing an opportunity and going, I'm going to make the 24/7 title thing my thing, and I'm going to grow that on Twitter myself, and then I'm going to force WWE to make me that champion. The whole he's not getting any bit, that was brilliant. I think the guy is great, and I think that video on Twitter, as heartbreaking as it was, proves that he's a bloody professional guy as well too, because he still played the game. Like, he had no reason to continue to put over that company and play along with their stupid storylines. Like, at that point, he could have just gone, screw it, I don't care anymore. I think it takes a very big man to still go, these might be my last 3 matches, and I'm still going to give you everything I've got, and still put in, still play up the idea that it's a competition that anyone can win, and it hasn't already been decided. I just think, like, props to him, because that was like, he didn't have to do that.
Yeah, him just saying, like, I've got to win these matches, otherwise, I'm going to go out not on the way I want to, and all that stuff. Like, yeah, he doesn't have to put over kayfabe at all, but he still did. And that was immediately after he got off the phone with them. So,
yeah,
what a guy. But
it just shows you can be professional in these situations. So maybe WWE management should have a little think about that.
Yeah. Shocking. Elsewhere on the show, there was an interesting development with Finn Balor on the show. He kicked off the episode facing Fabian Eichner. He got the win over him and took out Marcel Bartel as well, kind of continuing that Finn Balor-Walter plate, keeping that spinning until whenever that can happen. But then later on in the show, Velveteen Dream was cutting a promo because they were playing up on commentary for some reason. They were saying Velveteen Dream and Adam Cole are going to have a face-to-face later on the show. It's like, well, obviously they're not, but sure, go ahead. And then later on, Adam Cole cut a promo from the same place, and he was like, what, did you really think I was going to show up? It's like, no one thought you were going to show up. Come on, Cole. And then, he was just saying, you still don't deserve a shot at my title. I'm great. You're rubbish. Blah, 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 blah. And then Dream came out afterwards, and he was like, I'm getting really tired of this, Adam Cole. You're the greatest NXT champion of all time, but you're the last champion left in the Undisputed Era, and I'm going to take the title off you. But Finn
You're just
Balor,
playing video games. You just cut this promo earlier in the day because the sun was still out. I really enjoyed that line. I thought it was really funny.
That was pretty good. But then Finn Balor hears what Dream is saying, and you can just see him in the corner of the shot, just kind of standing there watching Dream. He comes up to him and he's just like, if you're talking about the greatest NXT champion of all time, that's me, buddy. That's not Adam Cole. And be careful what you wish for, because you might get a date with the Prince. And then Velveteen Dream was like, oh, a date? Great. Pick me up next Wednesday, which I thought was a great line from Dream again. And we're going to be getting Finn Balor versus Velveteen Dream next week, which I'm really excited for. That should be a great match. Feel like it could have done with a bit more build. personally.
Oh yeah,
it's a big match. That's a big time NXT match.
But
But
they're still building Velveteen Dream versus Adam Cole, which unless Velveteen Dream's going to go around his house, isn't going to happen. So
yeah, I know. And they're still building Finn Balor versus Walter, which unless Finn Balor swims across the Atlantic, also isn't happening. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's.
I just think it's a weird time. So we're going to get a lot of things that would have been more exciting had they had build. But probably, I'm still excited for this match. I still think that it's like, it's a shame that things like Timothy Thatcher's debut has to kind of be hammered into a hole that popped up because of some other reason. It's a shame that we finally get the pairing of Finn Balor and Velveteen Dream because Adam Cole can't be in the studio. It's a shame for all these things. But I think if making the best of a bad situation means that you get some things that would be quite high on your wish list of matches to see and debuts, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. Quick rundown of the just the rest of the show, just before we get out of it. Started off with that Balor and Eichner match. Charlotte cuts a promo saying that she's beaten the past, the present, and the future.
I really like this.
It was a cool promo saying that she's beaten, Nikki Bella and Paige and all that stuff. So she ended Nikki Bella's career, who was the past, and she beat Paige, who at the time was like the best wrestler in the world and all that stuff. And now she's beating Rhea Ripley, who was supposedly the future. So she's better than literally everybody. And it's hard to argue with her when she's won everything. I thought it was pretty cool. We got Xia Li versus Aaliyah. In some payback for Aaliyah busting, Xia Li busting her open, but Xia Li won anyway, which I thought was quite funny. They announced that El Hijo del Fantasma and had the video package and stuff. They had Swerve Scott versus Tozawa in a great match, I thought, for the first Cruiserweight tournament match. Thought this was absolutely class.
It was really, really good. The only thing I wasn't convinced by the finish. I wasn't convinced by Tozawa winning. Obviously, I think he's probably got a bit more name recognition, and maybe there's a bit more cross-promotional stuff going on now. So because he's a Raw star, he gets to be a little bit higher up that pecking order of who should be winning matches on NXT. Just because all the talent's being shared around now.
Yeah,
a lot more. So I think that's maybe why that decision was made. I feel like Swerve feels like the future bigger star to me, because I think he's great and he looked amazing in this match. But they both did. I think they both did incredibly well. Tozawa takes this crazy bump off this rolling cannonball into the barricade from the apron. It's nuts, and to be fair, it made it look like he was injured towards the end of the match, because he, like, as he wins the match, referee goes to raise his left arm and he's like, no, just raise me right, please, because I think he's done his neck here. So I'm hoping Akira Tozawa is not injured, and maybe it was just in pain from taking that particularly nasty bump. But what an amazing thing to do, because that was absolutely crazy.
It's a bonker spot. Please stop doing that. Don't hurt yourself in a time like this, please. Great match though. After that, we got Tegan Nox versus Raquel Gonzalez. Gonzalez is big. I don't know.
She really is.
Did she have a character? I'm not sold, really.
She's big and she's angry. Yeah. Dakota Kai looked like she'd been mauled by something on the way to the ring because her jeans were messed up. I thought Gonzalez was quite good in this, though. I think she was she was very dominating. I thought she was she came across like vicious in a really intimidating and cool way. I thought there was bits where she was pulling Tegan's hair to wrench her neck, and the ref was like, well, don't do that, you can't pull the hair. And she went, all right, fine. And she put her hands in her mouth and started wrenching like that. And then she started counting at the referee. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was great character work. I really like that. The match comes to a close though, because Kai gets involved and kicks Nox in the head while she's in the corner. But Shotzi Blackheart runs down and attacks Kai with a helmet. She then gets involved in a bit of a muddle with Gonzalez, and who's going for a chokeslam on the apron, but then Nox gets the roll up and steals the win. So that's now set up a Blackheart and Nox versus Kai and Gonzalez match for next week.
which is good setup. Have we been told why Gonzalez started helping Dakota Kai yet? Is that a thing?
Because she's her tiny clone?
Maybe. I don't know. But after that, we get, I thought, a really, really cool Keith Lee video package. This was great babyface stuff from Keith Lee, just talking about the sacrifices he's had to make and how long he's been in the business and yada, yada, yada. I thought it was awesome. It was great stuff.
I just like listening to him talk.
Right.
I just think he has a really good cadence and he's got a great voice. And I think he tells a story really well. And this is a good way to, again, these sorts of backstory filling in promo packages from people add to NXT. Like, you know, if you've got access to archival footage of people performing in Evolve or any of the other promotions that you work with, now that you're WWE, your Progresses, your WXWs, like, why not just leverage all of that stuff and just fill up your show with the really safe thing to do, which is just get people to talk into their phone or whatever it is, rather than having them do stuff in the ring, and then just fill us in on who they are, where they came from. I'm really interested in all that stuff. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I thought this was great stuff. Dexter Lumis beat up Tahuti Miles, Renta Jobber Tahuti Miles. And then we got, the Dream stuff. We've got some announcements for next week. So we've got El Hijo del Fantasma is taking on Jack Gallagher. Kushida is taking on Tony Nese. And Drake Maverick is taking on Jake Atlas. All in matches next week in the Cruiserweight tournament. And then, the aforementioned Blackheart and Knox versus Gonzalez and Kai. And then it was the tag match with Thatcher's debut, and then the Ciampa promo with Karrion Cross's debut. I thought this was a pretty good episode. The two debuts I thought were good. I thought the Cross one was awesome. The Thatcher one I thought was good. Some good, solid storytelling. Couple of, the Balor Eichner match was good. I thought it was pretty solid. And the Tozawa Swerve match I thought was great. So, yeah, it's a pretty good episode. Not too much wrong with it.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it's just everything in WWE feels a bit untethered from reality now. And that's, that's my issue. It's like, yeah, sure, on paper, great episode of wrestling, great wrestling thing. But all the purpose seems to have drained out of wrestling because, it feels like who's going to win the championship, all of that grind, all of that graft, all of that stuff doesn't really matter anymore. The big tournament they're hyping is for an interim champion and not the champion of cruiserweights. It all feels a bit stalled, and that is not WWE's fault. But then they have now added the sword of Damocles swinging over the top of every single episode of their production as they decide based on who's doing what that week and how well they did, whether they might be cutting people. So I think it was... not the show that was put out there's fault, but the fault of the company certainly that this NXT just feels a bit disjointed and a bit of a bad time to be watching WWE stuff.
Yeah, totally. That's probably all the time we've got for today. So please press the videos that have just appeared on the screen to catch up with the latest awesome WrestleTalk things, and the button in the middle that will take you to our Patreon page so you can become a pledge hammer. I've been Shabba Pete Quinnell. I've been joined by El Fakador Laurie Blake, and that was NXT.